When you picture the most important places in the ocean, what comes to mind? Well, today, we're diving into the story of coral reefs. These are basically sprawling underwater cities that are just as vital to the sea as rainforests are to the land. And as we're about to see, these incredible ecosystems are facing a threat that could change our oceans forever.
Okay, so to really get your head around just how important coral reefs are, let's start with a really powerful comparison. They are the rainforests of the ocean. And, that isn't just a nice poetic description, it's a functional reality.
I mean, the parallels here are pretty striking. Just like rainforests on land, coral reefs are absolutely teeming with life. But they also do all these essential jobs for our oceans. They're a massive food source, they literally protect our coastlines from storms. They're just these incredible hotspots of biodiversity.
But here's a statistic that is just mind-blowing. For all their importance, for all that vibrant life, coral reefs cover less than 1% of the entire ocean floor. Think about that. An unbelievably small footprint with a truly massive impact.
And here's the wild part. Despite that tiny footprint, reefs support an estimated 25% of all known marine species. A quarter of all life in the sea depends entirely on this little 1% habitat. It's an incredible paradox. When you look at the actual numbers, it's just staggering. Scientists figure that over 1 million species are associated with coral reefs. That kind of density of life is almost unrivaled on our entire planet. So yeah, it's crystal clear. These aren't just pretty underwater gardens. They are the absolute foundation of life in the ocean. So if they're this foundation of marine life, what exactly are these massive structures? Are they rocks? Are they some kind of plants? Well, the answer is so much more fascinating. To understand, we've got to meet the tiny little architects that build these giant worlds.
That's right, a coral reef is this enormous structure built by tiny animals called polyps. Over thousands and thousands of years, as these colonies live and die, their limestone skeletons build up, layer by layer, creating the amazing, complex formations we see. They are, for all intents and purposes, living, breathing animal colonies.
But these tiny animals have a secret weapon, you could say. They live in this amazing symbiotic partnership with a microscopic algae called zooxanthellae. The algae actually live inside the coral's tissue, and they provide up to 90% of its energy through photosynthesis. It's this partnership that gives corals their vibrant colors and all the energy they need to build those colossal homes.
This incredible system, though, is also exquisitely sensitive. It's a really delicate balance that's been perfected over millennia. But, and this is the big but, that balance is now being threatened at a rate we've never seen before.
You see, corals need a very specific set of Goldilocks conditions to thrive. Everything has to be just right. Just the right amount of sunlight, warm but not too hot water, super clear water without any sediment, and a stable place to attach. Any little deviation from this delicate balance spells big trouble.
And this is really where the story takes a dark turn. I mean, sure, natural factors have always shaped reef life, but the pressures they face today are overwhelmingly and dangerously human-made.
And the threats come from all sides, and they're all connected. You've got destructive fishing methods that can literally shatter the reefs. You have pollution that clouds the water, cutting off that life-giving sunlight. But the most widespread threat of all, ocean warming, is triggering a devastating chain reaction that we can see with our own eyes. And this leads us to the most visible and honestly the most heartbreaking symptom of a reef in crisis, a phenomenon called coral bleaching. It's when a reef's vibrant colors just vanish, leaving behind this ghostly white skeleton.
So what's actually going on here? Well, when corals get stressed out, especially by changes in temperature, they literally expel the colorful algae that live inside them. Now, the coral itself isn't dead, not yet, but it has just lost its main food source, and it turns this stark, ghostly white. The process is just a tragic sequence of events. You start with a healthy, colorful coral, but then, as the ocean temperature rises, that stressed coral kicks out its life-giving algae, and the result is a bleached coral. It's starving, it's vulnerable, and it's right on the brink of death if conditions don't get better fast.
And while things like pollution or other local problems can cause bleaching, let's be really clear. The primary driver of these mass bleaching events across the entire globe is climate change. A warming planet means a warming ocean. It's as simple as that. And it's pushing corals past their breaking point.
The scale of this crisis is just staggering. According to NOAA data from just a single 3-year period, heat stress was bad enough to trigger bleaching on 75% of the world's tropical reefs. And for nearly a third of them, that heat stress was fatal. Let that sink in. Almost a third of the world's reefs were killed in just a few years.
So this all brings us to a really critical realization. The fate of coral reefs isn't some isolated, far-off environmental issue. No, it's directly tied to the health of our oceans. And by extension, it's tied to our own future.
And the grim reality is, this isn't some temporary problem. When a reef dies, it rarely recovers. The entire ecosystem that depends on it, all the fish, the invertebrates, and the 500 million people who rely on them for food and coastal protection, it all begins to collapse right along with it.
So what can we do? Well, the path forward requires urgent action and on multiple fronts. We have to address the root cause, that's global temperature rise. But at the same time, we have to promote sustainable fishing, we have to drastically reduce ocean pollution, and we've got to make sure that tourism helps rather than harms these incredibly fragile worlds.
Ultimately, we're all left with this one question. These incredible ecosystems, which have thrived for millions of years, are now at a tipping point. And whether they remain a vibrant part of our world or they just become a memory of a world we lost, that's a choice that we are making right now.